Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our the first official Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling post show here at BC WrestlePod this year. My name is Mikey. I am El Jefe at BC WrestlePod, and I would like to welcome you to the first official premiere of the Flannel Fighters, our review team name for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And tonight I will be here to be reviewing Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's first event of 2026, Uprising. So, to kind of give you a little bit of a heads up, there's a team of four of us that will be here for the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show, but everyone is either busy or had to take the night off. But that is okay because I will be holding it down for the next 30 minutes or so. But it is going to be myself, my good friend Benny, who many of you have seen on our AEW post show, Papa O, who is on our NXT, CMLL, and TNA post shows. And then, of course, JVL, who does Mystery Wrestling and Progress and AEW as well. So the four of us are going to be holding it down for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling this year. And I'm super excited. So before I get into Uprising, let me get through the intro bit first, and then we can just talk about everything that happened this past weekend. But so if you are new here to BC WrestlePod, you've been rocking with us for a while now. We pretty much go live every day of the week except for a couple of days, but YouTube, Twitch, and Kick is where you can see us go live. Our main channel on YouTube also houses the edited shows for these lives, so which go up the following day, so the next day after. On top of that, we do a lot of stuff here. But if you're looking for something that is a little bit more self-contained, you can pick your favorite social media site, and that is where you can find us at BC WrestlePod, where you can see our report cards, previews of the weekly TVs and pay-per-views, prediction stuff, short clips of the lives. It is a good time, and it is a fun time for sure. We also have some merchandise available for at our shop, bcwrestlepodshop.fourthwall.com. Link in the description of the chat through everywhere that we are streaming live currently right now. On top of that, we also have a coffee because we pay for a lot of streaming services and pay-per-views. So if you want to help us continue to cover all these things, you can click the link that pops up ever so often and donate. But we know that times are tough and you don't necessarily need to. But with all of that out of the way, let's get into it. So, Uprising is the second event that occurred this past weekend with Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. The night before, it was Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor doing a collaboration show, which, we will be covering this Saturday, which is Global Wars Canada. But I am here to specifically talk about night two's action with strictly Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's Uprising. Now, I am fully aware that Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling doesn't have a set roster like we are used to here seen in the States with like WWE, AEW, TNA, and things of that nature. They do have a set list of people, but they're bringing in folks left and right to kind of be a part of this conglomerate roster. But I'm excited, and the show was fantastic. So I'm excited to talk about it. And let's just jump straight into this. So, Uprising kicked off with our first match of the evening, which saw CMLL Mascara teaming up with Bhupinder, taking on the team of Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and Jake Christ. I thought this was a very solid opener. Travel issues is what plagued a lot of the Global War show because we were supposed to get Mascara on the show and but travel issues were a plague on a lot of folks here, but it was really nice to see that Mascara Dorada was able to make it for Uprising and to team up with Bhupinder Gujar against Chris and Michael Allen Richard Clark. I thought this was a very solid bout. I think this was a good match to open up the night with. It definitely saw a really good team up between Bhupinder and Mascara, and I think they played a very fun role going up against Jake Christ, and Michael Allen Richard Clark, especially when he started doing push-ups on Mascarada. And I thought this was a solid bout. This is like definitely an opening feel type of match. It was just fun wrestling. It got the crowd invested for what would be a pretty lengthy show, about clocking in about 3.5 hours. This was really, really fun. It would be the team of Mascara and Bhupinder Gujar to pick up the victory here. And yeah, I had a fun time with this match. I don't really have anything else to add with this. Again, solid opener. It did its job with entertaining the crowd and definitely getting the energy to kind of start to formulate and to be there to give us the energy that we were going to need for the remainder of the show. So I had a fantastic time with this one, and it was a good time for sure. After this match, we get into our second match, which was a mixed tag team match. But prior to this, backstage, we had, the sidewalk savant himself, Sheldon Jean, with Brett Banks, and he blames and we get a promo backstage where we end up getting, excuse me, I'm looking at my notes. So here, what ended up happening is backstage, we got a promo with the Sidewalk Savant himself, Sheldon Jean, with Brett Banks and Bryce Hanson in the back. Sheldon Jean was very upset and blamed Bryce for losing the night before at Global Wars in that fatal four-way to become the inaugural MLP Tag Team Championships. And so Bryce gets upset with our interviewer, Samantha, takes his anger out by yelling at a tech hand. Then Bryce ends up yelling at somebody who has his back turned to him. And when he turns around, it turns out to be Daisuke Sasaki. And so Daisuke throws a chair at him, which would set up an impromptu no disqualification match later in the evening. After that, though, we get into this match, which is a mixed tag team match, which saw the team of Taylor Rising and Chris Chambers taking on the team of JCW, so Juggalo Championship Pro Wrestling's Alice Crowley, Big Al, and she is teaming up with Evil Uno, which was a lot of fun to see here. I thought this was a really fun mixed tag team bout between both teams. Taylor Rising is one of those individuals that I'm looking and keeping my eye out on more and more, as I think she's really good. She's had some really good showings in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. This is my first introduction to Chris Chambers, but I thought he looked solid. Big Al is not new to me because I did get a chance to see her when me and Andrew and his friend watched JCW The 2-Day War. And so she's pretty good. And of course, I love Evil Uno, AEW, Ring of Honor, Mystery Wrestling, fantastic stuff. And it was really nice to see Evil Uno wrestle here. It was really fun. We don't get to see that too often now these days. But this was a really fun mixed tag team bout. I thought everyone did really good. It would be Alice Crowley and Evil Uno who did pick up the win here. And again, I thought it was really, really fun. I had a good time with this one. And again, this was a really solid bout. I'm going to say this here because I don't want to keep repeating myself. This show definitely was a show of two halves. The first half of the show was a lot of the multi-person and the mixed tag team and singles matches, so non-championship matches that were here. And they were all really solid. I think once we got from the no DQ match all the way up to our main event, I think that is where everything kind of took off. But this was a really fun bout. It's a good mixed tag team. It showcased a lot of people, and I had a good time with it. Going into our third match, we got another tag team match, a little bit of some remnants of Global Wars. So we have Ring of Honor and AEW's The Swirl. So that is Blake Christian and Big Shouty Lee Johnson. And they took on the team of El Reverso and Mo Jabari in this match. I'm becoming a big fan of Mo Jabari. I think he's really, really good. And you know what? Love him or hate him, I do like the Swirl in Ring of Honor, and I think El Reversal is okay. He's cool. I think this is the only match that I wasn't really vibing with, and it's not because it was bad by any means, but it definitely had the Swirl be dominant the majority of the match. And I take issue with Jimmy Jacobs kind of causing a distraction for the Swirl, which would allow the Swirl to 2-on-1 El Reverso to pick up the victory here. I know Jimmy Jacobs is a very polarizing character, if that's the nicest way of me putting it. And I think that's my biggest gripe with this match. I think if Jimmy Jacobs didn't really come and cause a scene and interfere a little bit, I don't think I would have been as negative about this match. I just felt like that came out of nowhere, and it really didn't. I mean, it allowed the Swirl to pick up the win, but because Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling doesn't have a weekly television show, shout out to them though, because now they do, but that's not happening until the summer. I'm still trying to figure out if there's going to be any development, like what are we going to be doing with this? But other than that little gripe, I thought the in ring was really good. Again, Mo Jabari looked really great here. The Swirl, are continuing to come into their own as a tag team, and I really enjoyed it. So the Swirl would beat El Reverso and Mo Jabari in this match with the assistance of Jimmy Jacobs. And we'll see if Jimmy Jacobs is going to align with the Swirl or if that was just a one off. So when we get to Multiverse, which is Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's next show in April, we'll see how all that goes down. But after this match, we get into our next one, match number 4, which sees Pro Wrestling Noah's Kaito Kiyomiya taking on MLW's Bishop Dyer. So prior to the match starting, we are backstage with Samantha as she interviews Bishop Dyer and asks him why he betrayed Kaito Kiyomiya at the end of the tag team match on Global Wars for the to become the inaugural MLP tag team champs. And Bishop Dyer just says that he betrayed Kaito Kiyomiya because Bishop Dyer, he's an asshole, and that's what he does. Simple enough. And so then we get the entrances and we get into this singles match of Kaito Kiyomiya versus Bishop Dyer. I really wish my friend Benny was here because we were having a really good conversation about Bishop Dyer and how he has changed a lot of his wrestling style since leaving WWE. And Benny has stated that Bishop Dyer seems to have kind of slowed it down a lot more. And we know him to be a lot quicker on his feet. And I can see his point. I didn't have too much of an issue with it, but it definitely saw Bishop Dyer kind of repeat the same kind of sequences a little bit and was wrestling more of a power base and a tall man, a big man, if you will. And Kaito Kiyomiya was getting decimated, but he was putting up a really good fight too. I was very surprised that Kaito picked up the win here via like not a surprise roll up, but like a schoolboy. And I was a little perplexed. It seems that this feud is not over though, because after the match, Bishop Dyer attacks Kaito Kiyomiya, leaving Kaito laying in the ring after the match is over. So I really did like this was a solid match. I do wish that Bishop Dyer would kind of wrestle more to how he was in WWE, not only being power, but also kind of being a little bit of the speed as well. But I thought this was a really fun match, and I do want to see them run it back. Maybe if they got a little bit more time and they got to do more stuff, I think that would be good, but we'll see what happens next time. But I do believe that Kaito Kiyomiya and Bishop Dyer, their feud is not over, and we'll see as the year goes on if we get a rematch and what happens with all of that. Alrighty, so next, we go backstage again and we see that Raja is upset that he has to be competing in this elimination match in the main event to become the interim MLP Men's World Champion. And instead, he thinks that they should have given him the title. And so he's upset. And we're going to talk about how that anger comes into fruition in the match because lots of people got attacked during that match because of Rohan's anger. We cut back to the ring to set up our next match, which was a no DQ match. This sees Bryce Hansen taking on DDT's Daisuke Sasaki. This was just a good old fashioned no DQ match. Kendo sticks, stools, chairs, you name it. This was not about pulling off the craziest move sets ever. This was more so just trying to have good old fun and a street fight, no disqualifications. This was a lot of fun. This image made me cackle, so that's why I picked this one when Daisuke hit the nuts with the kendo stick. And this was just good old fashioned no DQ street fight. It was a lot of fun. Like, it wasn't taken seriously. This was so much fun to have. Daisuke Sasaki would beat Bryce Hansen. And you know what? I'm here for more Daisuke, if I'm being completely honest. So again, I don't really have too much of a notes to talk about here. Good old fashioned no DQ street fight. Daisuke beats Bryce. Happy. Can't complain. We cut backstage again where Stu Grayson cuts a promo and Evil Uno walks up to Stu Grayson and tells him that he's disappointed because Stu does not have the mindset of a champion. And he hypes Stu up, calling him the best wrestler in Canada and to go out there and prove tonight that he is the best wrestler in Canada by becoming the new interim MLP men's champion. So Stu gets all fired up and he is ready to go for the main event later tonight. Alrighty. So now we're going to get into, so this match definitely helped kick off the second half of the show. This is a lot of fun. and it definitely helped carry the energy for the remaining matches. So, after that backstage promo, we get into our fifth match, which is for the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Tag Team Championships. This is the champions that were crowned the night before at Global Wars, the Good Brothers, so Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, taking on the team of Brett Banks and the Sidewalk Savant himself, Sheldon Jean. This was a really fun tag team match. I know people have issue with the Good Brothers and how they're booked and how they wrestle, and their style is not necessarily my cup of tea. I do like watching them, but their movesets are not my biggest fans. But I thought they did a good job of being fun. They played with the crowd. And ultimately, they did a good job of making Brett Banks and Sheldon Jean look very good in this match. And to my surprise, we had Sheldon Jean and Brett Banks pick a win over the Good Brothers, and they are your new MLP Tag Team Champions. Now, of course, you're the heels. The crowd was booing, which comes with the territory, so to speak. But I am happy to see, actual Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling and Canadian talent hold these titles. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a rematch down the line, possibly. But I'm excited to see Sheldon Jean and Brett Banks, especially Sheldon. Him and Kaito Kiyomiya had a really good match last year, and I am looking forward for the Brett and Sheldon to kind of have some really good tag team championship defenses in the future. So I had no notes. This was a lot of fun. We go backstage again where Giselle Shaw cuts promo. She says that Deonna Purrazzo beat her in a pure wrestling match, and tonight they will do a pro wrestling match. And Giselle says that she is going to break Deonna's arm. So Giselle is more of a heel. And that promo leads us into our semi main event. And personally, this is tied for my match of the night. This is the MLP the Women's Canadian Championship, or MLP, the MLP Canadian Women's Championship. Our champion, Giselle Shaw, taking on the challenger, Deonna Purrazzo. The night before at Global Wars, Deonna Purrazzo beat Giselle Shaw in a women's pure champion rules championship match. This was such a good match. Oh my gosh. Anna and Giselle were throwing punches and moves back and forth. We got the ref bump, which would allow Giselle to hurt Deonna's arm and then use the brass knuckies for the win. But despite all of that, this was such a good bout. And honestly, I think Giselle and Deonna over the whole weekend of Global Wars and Uprising, I think these two had my two favorite matches of the entire weekend for those two shows. Oh my goodness. This was such a good match. And honestly, I want them to run it back. It was so good. It was so fun. Please, I highly recommend all of you to go out of your way to watch this match because, again, in 2026, women's wrestling continues to carry us and give us amazing matches. Oh my goodness. This was tied for match of the night. And the main event is my second match that ended up being tied for my match of the night. And this is for the MLP Interim Canadian Championship. This is an elimination gauntlet match, and this had Jay Lethal, Rich Swann, Stu Grayson, Rohan Raja, Jonathan Gresham, and now we play Michael Oku. So the winner would become the interim MLP Canadian champion, as Josh Alexander, the current champion, had to go get knee surgery, and so he had to vacate the title. But instead of stripping him of the title, we are crowning an interim MLP champion. And so when Josh is healed and ready to come back to the ring, we will find out who is going to end up being the actual champion when that time comes. But in the meantime, we got an amazing and a really fun elimination gauntlet. This was so much fun. I had a freaking blast with this one. So the elimination gauntlet worked the following way, as that it ended up being that two wrestlers would start out, and then once eliminations happened, we got more people coming in, and this was a really good one to do this with. But we started out with Michael Oku and Jay Lethal. So this was a lot of fun to have here. So the way that the elimination order worked is that we had, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I gotta look at my notes here. So again, elimination style match where everyone we started out with 2 wrestlers, and then as people got eliminated, we got more people coming in, and this was a lot of fun. So I had a blast with this one, but this is how it ended up going in terms of the elimination. So we started out with Jay Lethal and Michael Oku. So these 2 started it off for us here, and I thought it was a really, really fun bout for sure. The 2 end up going back and forth, and this was a pretty good Jay Lethal is always, you know, good in terms of being a good hand, but the way that it works is thanks to a little bit of distraction, Jay Lethal ended up eliminating Michael Oku first. Oh no, Jay Lethal was eliminated by Michael Oku. Then Michael Oku was eliminated by Rohan Raja as he was blindsided by a attack from Rohan. Then we would have Rich Swan come in to eliminate Rohan. And then Rich Swan comes in, Rohan eliminates Rich. Then Stu Grayson comes in and eliminates Rohan with the Nightfall. Rohan Raja attacks Stu Grayson with a chair as Jonathan Gresham, the final entrant, makes his way in. And Jonathan Gresham was at the ramp just watching this all go down. And so then our final 2 ended up being Stu Grayson and Jonathan Gresham. This was a really good back and forth between the 2. We had Jonathan Gresham manipulating a lot of the joints and the muscles and putting in the submissions. Stu Grayson was firing back with moves of his own. But ultimately, it would be Stu Grayson who would hit another Nightfall on Jonathan Gresham. And Stu Grayson is your interim MLP Canadian champion. So when you pair this win, this moment with the Evil Uno promo from earlier, this all culminates in a really fun story that makes sense and that Canada's best wrestler finally has gold to prove it, as Evil Uno called Stu Grayson the best Canadian wrestler out there. And tonight he proved it. And now Stu Grayson is going to be our interim MLP Canadian champion until Josh Alexander is healed. And then we'll determine who is the true champion. But what a great match, man. The last 2 matches of the night definitely were the highlights for me. I highly recommend those 2 matches to watch if anyone wants to get a glimpse of what MLP has to offer. But this was such a fun time. And Stu Grayson goes into the crowd to celebrate with his newly won title. And that is how MLP Uprising goes off the air. I thought this was a really fun starting show for 2026 for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And with everything that has transpired over the last couple of months since the beginning of 2026, MLP is out here trying to make some good moves. So we don't have to wait super long for the next Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show, as Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling will be having their next show during WrestleMania weekend called Multiverse, which is going to see the stars of Stardom and CMLL and AEW. It's just a multiverse of show with people coming over in the wrestling world and having matches. The first and only match that we have announced so far for Multiverse is we are going to see Mascara Dorada, Misty, and the Amazing Red take on all 3 members of the Rascals. So Myron Reed, Desmond Xavier, and Zachary Wentz. So I'm excited, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So we will be reviewing Uprising as part of WrestleMania Hell Week. So we will be reviewing that and breaking it down, having a post show in the next couple of weeks. But before I sign off for the evening, let me run through what the rest of the week looks like. Tomorrow night, I will be here with the TNA crew as we talk about TNA's Sacrifice. And we are also 1 week out from Rebellion. So we're going to talk about that pay per view and everything that goes on with that. So that's going to be a lot of fun for sure. Then Saturday, you get 2 post shows, you get 2 events happening. In the morning, Benny and I will be here to review Ring of ROH and MLP's Global Wars. So that was the show that happened the night before Uprising. And then later in the evening, Kilt and I, and maybe Papa also, will be doing a live watch along for NXT Stand and Deliver. So it's going to be a really fun show, and I look forward to it. But that's going to be it for here this Thursday night. I hope you all have a lovely and enjoy the rest of your week. We are making it to the weekend, which is also looking to be good with lots of wrestling. So from all of us here at BC WrestlePod to you at home, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay biconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you tomorrow for our Renee Sacrifice post show. But until then, and until next time, peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.